A delicate Chinese porcelain sugar bowl slips from a young girl's fingers. It hits the wooden floorboards and shatters. For a 5-year-old child, it's a simple accident, but for her mother, it triggers a rage that reveals the fragile, precarious nature of their entire existence. That child is Mariam. She lives her daily life entirely confined to a kolba, a tiny, sun-dried mud hut sitting isolated in a clearing 2 kilometers outside the wealthy city of Herat. Mariam is what society calls a harami, an illegitimate child. Her father, Jalil, is one of Herat's wealthiest men, an influential cinema owner with 3 wives and 9 legitimate children. Her mother, Nana, was simply his housekeeper, until she got pregnant. When the pregnancy was discovered, Jalil's family demanded blood. Jalil himself claimed Nana had forced herself on him. The social order immediately aligned to protect the wealthy, powerful man by casting the entirety of the shame onto the woman and her unborn daughter, gaining intensity. The kolba functions as a deliberate social quarantine. Mariam and Nana survive on rations pushed up a hill in a wheelbarrow once a month, their physical existence hidden away to ensure they never embarrass the man who created them. Yet once a week, the isolation breaks. Jalil crosses the clearing to visit. For an hour or 2 every Thursday, he bounces Mariam on his knee, brings her gifts, and calls her his little flower. Around him, she feels entirely deserving of love and beauty. He fills her imagination with the grand, worldly sights of Herat. He describes the vaulted bazaars, the pistachio trees sheltering ancient poets, and the famous minarets of Queen Gaurshad. He builds a shimmering fairy tale world in her mind, a world she is physically forbidden from seeing. Her mother offers a very different education. Nana warns that Jalil's stories are rich lies told by a rich man. She tells Mariam that women like them are essentially weeds, and society requires only one survival skill from them. That skill is tahammul, to endure. Mariam is caught between 2 deeply incompatible realities. To grow up, she will eventually have to decide if her father's affectionate promises are real, or if she must put on the bitter, hardened armor her mother wears to survive. In the spring of 1974, at 15 years old, Mariam decides to force the issue. When Jalil fails to show up for a promised trip to his cinema, she ignores her mother's desperate pleas, leaves the clearing, and walks the 2 kilometers down the hill into Herat. Suddenly, the world Jalil described is real. She is surrounded by cypress-lined boulevards, horse-drawn carts, pyramids of fresh cherries, and women walking freely through parks. No one points. No one calls her a harami, but the illusion collapses the moment she arrives at Jalil's towering, walled compound. A chauffeur refuses to let her through the gates. Mariam stubbornly spends the entire night sleeping on the cold street outside her father's house, waiting for the man who calls her his little flower. The next morning, she forces her way into the garden, and there, in a fleeting second, she looks up and sees Jalil in an upstairs window. He looks down at her. Then frantic hands pull the curtain shut. He is hiding from her. Mariam has driven back to the kolba in the back of Jalil's car. As the driver escorts her up the path, a gust of wind parts the branches of the weeping willow tree. Beneath it is an overturned chair. Nana is dangling from a rope. By daring to test her father's love, Mariam accidentally exposed the brutal truth of her existence. She shattered the fairy tale, proved every cynical warning her mother ever gave her, and inadvertently destroyed the only person in the world who actually wanted her.
With Nana dead, Mariam is brought into Jalil's home, but only briefly. She is placed in a guest room while Jalil's wives immediately mobilize. To them, Mariam is the breathing embodiment of their family's past disgrace, and her newfound vulnerability is the perfect opportunity to erase it. Within days, they summon a man named Rashid. He is an imposing, broad-shouldered shoemaker. He is decades older than Mariam. He is chosen because he can provide a roof, but primarily because he lives very, very far away. Mariam begs Jalil to stop it. Jalil looks at the table, chews his lip, and mutters a single complaint about how hard this is for him. A hastily arranged nikah ceremony takes place. Mariam signs the marriage contract under the suffocating weight of her father's silent complicity. A few hours later, her suitcase is packed. She is placed on a bus bound for Kabul, a journey that spans 650 kilometers across deserts and snow-capped mountain ranges. Jalil's family uses the institution of marriage for social sanitation. They have formalized a process to box up a liability and ship her across the country, ensuring the shame of her birth never touches their doorstep again. Mariam arrives in the Daymazong district of Kabul, a chaotic, unfamiliar urban sprawl of unpaved roads, muddy gutters, and densely packed homes. Rashid's two-story house is larger than the Kolba, but it lacks the open sky and the trout-filled stream she grew up with. Inside, it is dark, sparsely furnished, and smells heavily of old cigarette smoke. The ceilings are high, the curtains are thick, and the space immediately suffocates her. Then there is Rashid himself. He fills the doorframes. He dictates the rules of the house with a harsh, raspy voice. When Mariam cries from homesickness, he tells her he has no patience for it. He asks sly, needling questions about whether she is frightened of him, instantly establishing an undercurrent of total submission. Mariam's isolation has simply shifted into a new phase. Her childhood exile on a lonely hillside has been replaced by the immediate physical threat of domestic imprisonment under Rashid's total control. Attempting to play the role of a dutiful wife, Mariam gathers flour and walks to the neighborhood's communal tandoor to bake bread. She finds herself surrounded by local women swapping rapid-fire complaints about lazy husbands and sick children. When they notice the young new bride from Herat, they swarm her with questions. The noise, the proximity, and the sudden realization that these women are trapped in the exact same cycle sends Mariam into a severe panic attack. She flees blindly through the streets, retching in her own yard before retreating back inside. That evening, as she serves Rashid his dinner, her hands shake. She realizes that her safety, her food, and her physical well-being now depend entirely on keeping a massive, volatile stranger satisfied with his meal. As he eats, Rashid casually mentions that across the world, an American president named Richard Nixon has just resigned over a scandal. Empires are shifting. Global power is changing hands. Meanwhile, Mariam sits silently on the floor, confined to a few square feet of a single room in Kabul. The fairy tale Jalil sold her is dead. The safety she sought was a mirage. Sitting across from a man who demands complete control, Mariam finally understands the brutal accuracy of Nana's worldview. In a society meticulously engineered to cast her out, sell her off, and silence her, she has only one tool left: tahammul. She must endure.